Hello and welcome to the Fire in the Valley show. Today we'll have myself, Mighty Pete, and we're joined by the Christina Vitagliano. I had to get that wrong, didn't I? Vitagliano. No, let's get this right.
Yeah, close enough. Vitagliano. Yep.
Vitagliano. There we go. It really wasn't that hard. Yeah. It's like
no, it's a lot of vowels. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. So Vitagliano. Is that Italian? I'm going to say Italian, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. Italian.
Yeah. For heritage. So awesome. Well, listen, first of all, welcome to the show. Now that I've completely fluffed up your name, so we'll moving swiftly on. Tell us, Christina, who are you? What do you do? And where are you from?
Well, my name is Christina Vitagliano. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada, in the United States. And I just finished publishing a book called Every 9 Minutes. It's my memoir. It takes place over the span of about 30 years. But my real life for what I do now is I created a company called Monster Mini Golf. We're indoor family entertainment centers, all monster themed miniature golf.
Wow. Okay. So yeah. How long is, well, let's start with the mini golf. I mean, where did that start and how long has that been going?
We're going on 18 years. We started in 2004, and I originally came up with the idea because I needed to raise $5,000 to edit a book I wrote about 20 years ago. So that's really how it started. I had quit my career. I didn't want to take up my entire life being a workaholic anymore. So, and I wanted to do something that was fun. So I created this cool indoor mini golf course that was all black lights. And I figured me and a friend could run it. It'd be easy. We could raise the $5,000 I needed to edit my book at the time. And then I could balance my life. So we opened that in 2004. By the end of that first summer, I was like, holy cow, this is really something. We franchised it in 2005. So now we have, 17 years later, we have 30 locations across the United States and 2 in Canada. And my book sat on my desk until COVID hit.
Wow. Okay.
So when COVID hit, the world stopped, obviously. And I said, I really should do something with this memoir that I've been sitting on. And 30 locations later, I had the $5,000 finally, yay. And self-publishing, and it's things had changed so much in the publishing world over the span of 20 years that I self-published, and it came out in May of this year.
Yeah. How do you feel about it now that it's out in the open world?
The first 6 weeks, terrifying, because, you say, okay, I'm going to put it all on paper. And then I sat on it for 20 years. And now, honestly, 20 years later, I'm much older and smarter and wiser. So that's good and bad. You're more aware of so many things. So a bit of being naive when I did write it to some degree was good. But sitting on it for 20 years, it was out of my system and I put it on paper. But when you publish it, it's back. It's now everything is raw all over again. And you're letting the world, even the people you know, which is harder than the people you don't know, learn about your entire life. Yeah. But once it's out there, hey, it's out there.
So I'm curious, because one of the things you talk about, and you mentioned it on your website, saying, if my words or story can show someone in crisis or need that there is light at the end of the tunnel, they can get past this, then sharing my story was something I owed to myself. And unfortunately, too many others like me, maybe together we can make a difference. And that's beautiful. I mean, it's, I'm sure we'll get into it, but obviously there's a lot here and it's been a big journey for you to come through that, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the difference in age and wisdom, is that if you have to some degree managed to, and I don't say survive it, because I don't like the word survivor, even though literally, obviously I'm surviving, I'm breathing and things like that. But nobody who goes through a traumatic experience, whether it's a one-time issue or ongoing for many years, you don't survive it. It's never gone. It doesn't leave you ever. So I think it's more that you have to balance it in your life and not let that overcome you. And that's the constant balance. And when you realize, holy cow, I can do this, at least I think I can do this, then you kind of have your life. but surviving it just doesn't help. I mean, sure, we all breathe and we get up in the morning, but some of us have become where it owns you for the rest of your life. And that's a tough place to be.
And that's it. I mean, it's sort of possibly getting into it almost too quickly, but it's, that's a question I really have, is how do you stop you living your past in the future?
Yeah.
Just this replay, right?
Yep. Yep. And it's a struggle. And we know there's so many of us, we all know people that are in that predicament, that are, and it's adulthood. I think it's weird. I mean, as a child, when it was happening, I was so young, and then it happened over the span of so many years. When you're going through it as a child or coming of age, because you don't really become an adult until we're in a, well, late, I don't know about you, but I'm in my 50s and I'm just realizing, hey, I think I got this thing called life. It takes that long.
I'm responsible for stuff. How
Yeah,
worrying is that,
But when you're a teenager, you think you know it all. When you're 20s, you think you know it all. When you're 30s, you think you got it as an adult. None of that is true. It's all bullshit. But I think when you're going through it, whoever it is that goes through it, you make yourself deal with it. And for some of us, it became normal. So you would go through it and go through whatever that experience is you have to deal with. And you get up, and I left the house, and I didn't want anybody to know what was happening inside that house. And I wanted to be normal. So you condition yourself that that's how you live. When you've left it, which was me at like 18 when I moved out, it takes a very long time for it all to catch up with you. And the smarter you get and the more experience you get in life, the more you realize everything you've been through was very, very messed up. And then it starts to affect you, which is really weird. So then the balance comes in. How do I not let what happened to me many years ago affect who I am today? And that's not easy. And that's why we have friends that have been through this, that are drug addicts or didn't survive it, actually died, or so many other addictions or vices that they had to grab onto just to get up in the morning to what we call be a survivor, which is really breathe and walk. That's, that's really what it is. Surviving is one thing, overcoming or balancing it is, I think, of what you try to achieve to, So that was a long answer, sorry.
No, not at all. I mean, please, it's, would you class, does this come under, is it trauma? Is that the sort of overarching?
It is, I think so. Because, I think we get tagged as abuse, which obviously it is abuse, but the trauma of the abuse is so much deeper than the actual abuse. It's becomes secondary. And then for some of us, the people around you in that network while it was happening can have just as much effect on who you are and whether it, takes your life over. Because as a child, we're born just instinctively to trust the people who are bringing us up. And when that first thing is ripped from you and stolen from you, and somebody steals your innocence and your trust, that's a hard way to start life, and some people just never get it back. It's hard to get back, or it's hard to deal with life when somebody stole it. I wouldn't say you ever get it back.
Yeah, I kind of imagine almost it's not having a center point. It's not having knowing what normal is per se.
Yeah. There's you make your own normal, and sometimes you find out years later that what you thought was your normal was way messed up, and you shouldn't have done that. But that's we live and learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell us, what does fire in the belly mean to you?
It means to me, and this is just me, fire in the belly to me means, okay, something is happening that I really need to stay on top of and be aware of. To me, if I have a fire in the belly, that means, oh, red flag, open your eyes, stay alert, and, be on top of something. And I think a lot of
sign or a message type thing. Is it intuition?
Yeah. To me, that would be a sign, message. Yep. If I have fire in the belly, there's a reason for it.
Wow.
And usually to me, it's stay on it. Yeah.
Is it something that you get and it's something you live with?
Every day. I think some of the, for lack of a better word, some of the good things, and not that that's the right word by any means, that come out of being in a situation for a long period of time, is that you teach yourself how to be very, very alert. So you teach yourself body language, you teach yourself when somebody says something, or so it's almost like you've taught yourself to be a profiler at a very young age. So when you've done it over decades, the upside is that somebody can walk up to you and within minutes, whether you wanted to or not, I instinctively will profile somebody. Doesn't mean I'm always right, because nobody's always, right 100% times, but majority of the time I got it. But I thought that everybody had that. So as I got older, and this is like the last couple of decades, you realize that your adult friends aren't like that. So sometimes you look like a complete, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear or anything, but you look like a complete ass when you say that person's not safe. You shouldn't be trusting what they're doing. And your friends are looking at you as if you're a crazy person, because the average person doesn't see what you see, which is weird, And I don't know if that's good or bad. Sometimes it's actually bad.
I mean, is it essentially heightened senses? I mean, it's survival instincts at its highest form, because you have to survive, right?
Yes, because when I was young, that was the most important thing in the world. Oh, that noise is happening there. So that means I need to be very aware. I need to do these six things, in order to survive the next hour. But it came natural, because that's just who you were. That's how you had to survive,
What's your earliest memory of the abuse then?
I started at 4 years old. And I just I'm the kind of person that everybody knows me, says, oh my God, your memory's insane. I don't know what I had for lunch yesterday, but your memory, is just, I relied on it so much. It's almost like you teach yourself, don't forget what happened yesterday, because you're going to need that to get to that next step today. Because as a child, you don't know anything. So it's almost like every day that you're learning something is so brand new to you. And you say, okay, yesterday I knew A and B, so I can get through A and B because I got to survive C, it was just getting to that. To me, it was always getting to the point where I didn't have to be in that house. So I was in a race to learn as much as I could, so that I could get out and survive without any of those people, which seemed normal to me, which was not normal at all now that I think about it, but it was just get driven,
So what was the first event then? How did it all start? Was there a trigger?
You mean, how did it all start? Like, how did the abuse start? You mean, when did it start?
Yeah, I mean,
So my mom married my stepdad. So there you go. In 1969, and he had 3 boys, little boys. We're all about the same age. I was 4. They got married, and then whammo, there's a girl in the house, and then guess what? This guy's a bad guy. So it started that's the earliest memory that I have. I remember, where I was, the bedroom, I remember all of it. And then it just didn't stop, for years, decades. Variations of it, because as I grew, things changed a little bit. And now if I look back, because everybody says, why didn't you say anything? Anybody who's not been in the situation will say, why didn't you say anything? Because at a young age, you just don't know how to handle stuff like that. But for me, being that young, I remember thinking to myself, my mommy wasn't happy before this, and now she's really happy in this. She has a family, and to her, family and him, family was great. You have to have a family. So I could either be like the jerk and speak up and say something and make my mommy unhappy, which was, I never wanted to do that. And then the other fear as you get a little bit older is, if I say something, what if they get rid of me and keep the family? And that's a bigger fear, is that I'd end up in an orphanage because she loved him so much. And that becomes your bigger fear, especially as you get older in the 8, 9, 10, and even early teenage years, is, holy cow, that's terrifying.
Do you know why your mom loved him so much?
I have no idea to this day. I mean, everybody says probably my number one phrase in life that I actually sets me off is, but it doesn't matter. She's your mom, or she's your mother, or she's your dad. That's your dad. Oh, it totally matters. And everybody has that, or blood is thicker than water. There has to be a time when you have to say, this is too much. You have to cut ties. To this day, she was still protecting. That's just life. I don't know what to tell you.
How aware was she of what was going on?
While I lived there, and I would even say up until I left when I was 18, maybe the last couple of years, I wanted to believe she didn't know. In your heart, you say, okay, she doesn't know what's going on. And she's a very, very weak person, very weak. And everything is, no matter what happens, she's going to relate it to how it affected her and how we should be taking care, just kind of the person that she is. But once I left the house and I was an adult and I had boyfriends and then got married, and you realize that when that person you're sleeping with gets out of bed, it. And I didn't know that because I was a kid. You don't sleep with anybody when you're a kid. So I remember being an adult, and the first time my partner got up and went to, either the bathroom or whatever, but was gone for a longer, probably, time than they should have been for whatever reason in your head. I woke up and I was like, oh my gosh, are they okay? Because your first instinct is the person I love okay? So, I hear the bathroom, I hear something flushing. Oh, they're okay, so you're coming back to bed and they're back to bed. But that's instinctive. If if your partner gets up and they're missing, eventually you wake up, And then I realized, holy cow, this has been happening for, that happened for 17, 18 years of, well, whatever, from 4 to 18 of my life. She knew. And then as you get older and wiser, and all of these things you get so much more aware of in real life that wasn't in your little cocoon, then you start to realize every day, she knew. Oh, she definitely knew. Oh, wow. And then you get angry. Yeah. And then you have to overcome the anger.
Can I ask, and I know it's probably a very personal question, I mean, we talking physical abuse or sexual abuse or verbal abuse? I mean,
all sexual abuse. Yeah, all sexual abuse. Not physical, not beating me up ever, because in real life, this all happened at night, only in my room, and never on the outside world. On the outside world, he was the guy everybody loved, the funny guy, just why would anybody not like him? So it was, he wasn't the guy that you look at and say, oh, that dude's weird. Which I think a lot of children who've been abused, that's, I don't think you look at the guy or the mom and say, oh, they're off. There's something wrong with them. In most cases, they look normal, act normal. Yeah.
Wow. And to know, as you say, retrospectively, to sort of first wonder if your mother knew, and then, as you say, I mean, listen, most households, everyone kind of knows what's going on anywhere in any household. It's curiosity.
One of the weird, like when you said, hey, when the book came out, how does that feel? So once I published the book and it was out for the world to see, there's strangers who read it and will message me or email me and say, hey, thank you, or this is what happened, or this is what happened to me. So you hear their stories, and that's heart-wrenching. But there's another group of people that I know that, will say, hey, I read this. I grew up in your town, or I live so-and-so, or I knew your mom and dad. And let me tell you something else. And you're like, oh, dear Lord, like, how did I not know? I get so mad at myself for not being smarter when I was a child. Because all of these things that happened in my life, there were some crazy, crazy things that happened in our lives, that you're just like, oh, well, that's how things happen. And then you learn, no, they planned that. And I didn't know that tragedy was planned, it's insane, and you look at how many children too many children live in these environments, and it's crazy. Just is.
How, what state did it get to then? I mean, with your father-in-law, I mean, was there ever proceedings and were, you know,
No, he passed. So for those, I don't want to give anything away in the book, but my dad isn't living anymore, or my stepdad, but so he was never confronted.
right.
The rest of my family did. I finally said, look, this is what happened in my life, and really it didn't matter to them. That was their hero, so I must be lying. That's a really short version of that one. Even to this day, even when the book came out, nope. I mean, the people you should trust the most are the ones that are the first ones to publicly just lambaste you, and then teach their children, because now we're so old that my siblings have children, and it's worse. My brother, my older brother, who followed in his father's footsteps, in my opinion, because I'll just say in my opinion, has children, and one of them is a girl. So, you know, you hope, the only thing you can do is hope that what you've written is exactly what I said, that somebody reads it and it helps them, or somebody reads it and says, I haven't said anything. Maybe I should speak up, because this is happening either in my house or to somebody I know. Because it's weird. We live in a world, in a time right now where people are talking about everything, and they're speaking up about everything that they think is wrong, or they don't believe in, or they believe in, and more than ever because of social media, or just this generation is a little bit different than probably those of us, you know, before them. But still, with all of the speaking up and all of the yelling and the screaming and tearing down of statues and this and that, nobody will speak about this still. Celebrities, new, that's a new thing for them. They will, which good. I mean, I think anybody who's speaking about it is great, but I think, and I look at this as my opinion from my view, if I was a child or young or impressionable age, like that teenage age where this was happening to me, and there was a celebrity saying, hey, you know, I was sexually abused and it happened all these years, and blah, blah, blah. Still not knocking that, because I think everybody should always talk about that. I think I would say, holy cow, I relate to her or him, but I'm not going to speak up, because that person is so, just a celebrity isn't me. And I would still be afraid to say something. So I think that one of the reasons why I said, okay, I'm going to give this a shot, I'm going to write it, is because I'm not a celebrity. I'm not anybody, you know, super important. I'm your average person who I learned to balance it, which is a good thing. But I don't have $1 billion. I'm not, you know, I don't have all these people around me taking care of me. This is everyday life, and I'm living it. And that's more relatable to me than a celebrity who I do admire, and you need that person to speak out, but you say to yourself, well, I'm never going to be them. You know?
Do you think it would happen today?
What?
The whole, what you went through, has anything changed, do you think, in that time scale?
No. I think it's still happening at the rate it was happening then, if not more, because there's just more people in the world, but absolutely not. I think it is. So the title of the book is called Every 9 Minutes. And the reason it's called Every 9 Minutes is because here in the United States, every 9 minutes, a case of child sexual abuse is reported. So if you talk to most abused children, even if they will tell you, and you ask them, did you ever report it? I'll bet you 80% plus did not. So we live in a world where every 9 seconds, somebody's reporting it, which is terrifying when you think about the reality of all of the people, including myself, who never reported it. So no, it's not any better. In fact, it's worse, because in this day and age, I don't know why, it just seems like, in America anyway, that men can get away with, and I also think that I want to be very clear that it's not always happening. It's not always the man that's doing it. Sometimes a woman is sexually abusing a child too, which is completely insane. But But here in America, in these last 3 or 4 years, it's almost acceptable to get away with it. That's our new, guys can do anything, they're cool. That didn't exist as far as publicly being okay. And that's America. A lot of politics here, a lot of, who we look up to as people who are better beings than us. And I don't know why it's happening.
Do you see your mother as one of the abusers, given that
100%.
she was aware? That's enough.
Yes. To me, she's as evil of a monster as he is. And I don't say that it's like, well, that was a sickness. Well, I don't care if it's a sickness or not. Bad is bad. But if somebody is stabbing my friend and I'm sitting there watching it, that makes me kind of an asshole too, I mean, I actually could have stopped it. I don't know what, and it's not that it's worse, because there is nothing worse than that, but it's certainly not any better. I've had people in my own world that, and then I don't want to say too much, but they know something bad is going on in a household. And when I tried to say, look, there's a little kid here, this is the history of this family, we should do something about this because that's a young child that's going to get destroyed. The response was, don't you ever come into my world and disrupt anything. I'm about to get a brand new house and I've never had a house in my life, and you're going to mess this world up for me. So that was my first slap in the face of, oh, people are selfish. They don't really care what's not happening or, happening to not them. And that was 20 something years ago. And I see that person on social media and I say, I feel responsible because she's not okay. And she's not, I put people in the, hey, there's people who have learned to deal with it like me. And there are some people, and this isn't good or bad, just as a result of that person that did this to you and just who you are, that have decided that they're going to go with it. And their abuser is still the person they love. And that's a majority, it just, it's your parents. They can't deal with the, how do I not love this person? So it's hard to watch as an adult to see somebody else that was a child, now an adult, internally dealing with it and never admitting it. Just different people,
What, I mean, as you said, to have this happen in your inner circle, the people that sort of are closest and supposedly love you the most, how do you not just lose it? Because there's almost nothing static in your life, if that makes sense. It's like everything you thought was safe and trustworthy is unsafe. In fact, it's dangerous and untrustworthy. So how do you find stability?
I don't, now or then.
Well, I suppose originally then, at the time, because
then I had learned to condition myself, and not that this is not a good answer and not the right answer by any means. By the time I was in my teens, what was happening to me was normal. Like, okay, I didn't sleep, or I half slept every night, but okay, well, I got to live through this. That's done. But it's like, I don't know. If you work in a donut shop and you eat donuts for that first week, they're awesome. And then after, years and years go by, you don't even notice them anymore. I learned to not notice it. That's pretty much what it was. And as I got older, I say lucky, I was fortunate enough to know that the outside world is different. Doesn't mean that everybody is like this guy. And then you realize, holy cow, the outside world is different. That can be cool and fun. And as long as nobody knows what's happening inside. My fear was nobody ever, I don't want anybody to know, because they might treat me weird. And I think that if you ask a lot of people who've been through this, and why they didn't say anything, because it's embarrassing, you don't want anybody to know something like that happening, because the average person thinks that that's, I don't know what, they just think that that makes you broken.
Unfortunately, it almost confirmed your worst fears, right? That,
Yeah,
you talked about this sort of fear of speaking up basically equaled being orphaned.
yeah,
And unfortunately,
yeah,
that's kind of what happened, it
yeah.
seems.
Yep, so there's so many stages, and you wonder why so many people don't survive it. And by survive, I mean they don't, life just isn't normal. They can't lead a normal life. Um, but that's why, because you just slapped in the face day after day, It's like, okay, I got this. Oh, no, 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 that shouldn't have happened. But it did, no matter what the right reason was, people make choices, and lots of people choose to make the wrong choices because it's better for them. Doesn't matter if there is no whole picture to look at. Just human beings aren't always good people as much as we
Hmm.
want them to be.
Do you know why your father-in-law was like that?
Um,
Or your stepfather?
that's
Apologies.
okay. I don't, and I used to think, and this is really weird reason, but this is a kid's reasoning. I used to say to myself, my mom married a guy whose wife passed away. His first wife had passed away, but my mom married a guy who had 3 boys, and they're very close in age. So I remember thinking to myself, there's a reason he doesn't have any daughters. And my mom gave him a daughter. And I always say to myself, and I know this is a child, because I'm thinking, if he didn't have a girl, would he have been like, would he have not hurt anybody? But yet, boom, here's a girl, do what you want. I don't know. I don't know. I think I don't know what made him like that. I have 3 brothers. I have 4 brothers, because they had a child together too. And one of them is just like him, in my opinion. How's that? But yeah, and the other ones are not. So I don't know what makes somebody like that. But they do, but I do think that generation after generation, they breed more of them because they grew up in that house. So a child's instinct is to be like their parents. How many times, I mean, how many god awful, and I watch every crime show there is, but how many of those things do we watch? No matter what happens, when you're sitting there trying to figure out why this guy murdered this person, or why this person did this, or why this woman was a serial killer, it always comes down to their childhood. And they're just, and they're, and yet, and in a lot of cases, then there's another one right behind them, but yet we never do anything about it, ever. And the systems in America, I don't know what they like in your country, the system is horribly broken, horribly corrupt, and everybody is okay with that. Or the majority of people that are in it obviously are okay with it. And those who aren't are just beat to death for trying to fight a bigger army. So I don't know.
I had a guest recently, and they talked a lot about honor killings,
Mhm.
and I can't help but see the parity here
Yeah,
in the honor killings being, it's like if you have a daughter and not a son, and if she disgraces the family, literally it's the family almost
yeah,
turn against, and it's almost similar here. It's like, how can this happen?
yeah. It's
Listen, I mean, first of all, privilege, right? We're sitting
yeah.
here and very comfortable and all the rest, and saying,
Mhm.
I don't believe it's so extreme. It feels so extreme. How could this possibly happen? But yet, unfortunately, I think you probably don't have to go too far to find it's happening not that far
No.
away, which is
Yeah.
scary, right?
Yeah. 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 and not that it's any better, but if it was rare and happened just you're like, oh, I heard about that. That happened 10 years ago somewhere else. No, odds are if you go 3 doors down in your house, eventually you're going to hit somebody in your neighborhood that this is happening to. Not that anybody would admit it, but yeah, that's a problem. It's a serious problem.
How do you stop it?
To me, that was, so people said, why did you share? I'm like, how did you share your entire life? Because I just put it all out there. Here is the bad that happened. Here is the bad that I did, I think, to make it worse. Because, we learned that you have to be honest if you're going to do this. So one of the ways I hope to make any kind of a change was exactly how we started this was, hey, maybe if I put it out there, somebody will go, all right. And maybe to start a chain reaction, but it has to take a lot of screaming and yelling and just, I don't know. I'm an adult now. I don't have children. I'm successful with my life, so I can afford to take the time to yell. And I feel that, well, one, not everybody can because they're trying to just get by every day. So I don't know. I just want to be able to yell for other people that can't. I know what that's like,
What's been the penalty and the reward for you for sharing? Why did you start 20 years ago, and what triggered it 20 years ago, and sort of what was it? COVID that sort of decided on putting this to bed or putting it out to the world once and for all?
When I wrote it 20 years ago, I had just met my husband. So that was my trigger back then was, okay, I'm going to, and he pushed me, he says, why don't you want to do something? I said, yeah, I want to write about it. So he supported my writing. And that was the first time I had ever talked about it with anybody too. So that is part of the memoir, is getting to that point. And then back then, I would say, well, it was about 680 pages on the first draft, which is way too long for a book because I could only write my entire life. It's the only way I could get it done. So then when I had to have it edited, and it was before self-publishing and things like that, that was overwhelming to me. We didn't have any money. We come from nothing. So that's how I said, well, what if I start something that has nothing to do with the way we make our regular living, and then we'll raise the $5,000. So that was that beginning of the story as to how Monster Mini Golf came to be. And then as I started this company and got wrapped up in that, I fell back into the same, I'm a workaholic. So that was my vice. I fell back into my job needs to be, I'll do that later. And I did that for 17 years. And then when COVID hit, I think so many people, we all sat down, we had nothing to do. The whole world came to an end, who knew? And back in my head every single day for those 17 years is, I have to publish that book. I have to, I got to get it out there. I want to do something. That was me saying it, but never sat down and did it. And I just finally did.
So what's been the penalty and what's been the reward for releasing the book?
I don't think there's been any penalty other than it's out there, it's raw again, but I'm okay with that now. I don't see a penalty to any of it at all. The reward is that I actually did it. I mean, for me, I was like, holy cow, I didn't think I was ever going to do that. And I did it finally. I don't care if it's good or bad. I just did it. The downside is that I do still work for a living. In fact, I have way too many jobs, but, and I get mad at the end of the day because I don't have the time that I want to have to put into doing this, what we're doing here today, promoting the book, doing any of that. But that's my impatience. I will have time. I just, life and your responsibilities, which I have a lot of, you're responsible for first. So
where does your genius lie? I mean, where is your, if we were to give you an open stage or blank canvas or an empty room, where would we find you? What is your point of creativity, and what would you be creating?
Um, I think a couple of things. One, I want to do public speaking on this subject. So I would just want to do that all the time. I just want to be able to get the word out there and talk to people, and get them to understand that they're not alone. So that's one thing. If I was just going to be creating things, I am. That's what I do. I mean, Monster Mini Golf, I create a different venue every single time we build one. But if I didn't have to do the work thing, we call it, I would just be making. I just like to make stuff, and I'm not an artist by nature, but that's what I would be doing. I don't know, with about a zillion dogs and my husband. Oops. That's really about it. I'm a simple person, I think.
I'm still curious. I mean, $5,000 and the challenge of this. I don't know many people that go, let's build a mini golf course. It's like, I'm
My
sure a lot
husband
of people
always
would
says,
say,
"It's
get a
crazy."
second job, tutor, do something, right? Something sort of lower hanging fruit. Build a mini golf course. I don't know that it's that low down the tree. I think that's fairly high up. I mean,
Yeah, well, I was coming out of being a workaholic when I met my husband. I said, I'm not going to do all of these things and work 24/7 anymore. I get it. You have to have a relationship. So my background is in, retail management, just regular, working in shops and being managers for those places over many years. And then from there, I went to nightclub and restaurant management, which was even more hours and later hours and all kinds of craziness. So when I left that, and then eventually got to the point where I said, okay, well, now I have to publish this book. That's a really short version of that story. I wanted to create something. I always like to do something that nobody's done. So that's an issue with me, I think. But we lived in a very small town in Northeast Connecticut. It was a low income town, like an old mill town. So many, many families were living day to day and eating and feeding their children if they were fortunate enough. So it was a really poor town. So my husband owned a sound production company where he would supply equipment to concerts and things like that. And I had been doing antique auctions. That's what I was doing after I quit my career. So really, I'm going to make this story as short as I can. And then I sold the antique business, which is really a mailing list. So while all of this writing was happening, everything was happening, I got done. We had this empty space in an old mill, really, really like 100-year-old mill. It was dilapidated, probably should have been torn down. And my husband stored his concert equipment in one part of it, and I had my antique auctions in the other. Now it was just this empty space. So that's how it started was, hey, here's an empty slate. What can I do with this to raise $5,000? So in my head, I thought, well, whatever I do, it had to have three things. I had to be little to no overhead as far as expenses go. I wanted to do something that was entertainment oriented, and it had to cost less than the movies, because in my town, all I heard from parents was the movies are so expensive. We can't even take our children to the movies anymore, because by the time you get done, you've spent over $100. I thought that was sad. So I remember saying to my husband, I just want to create something that's fun, less than the movies, and me and a friend can run it. So that's how I got to mini golf. It was backwards, So what can I do that includes all of these three things? So I remember we were on our ride home from New York one day, and he was working, and we were just driving home late at night. And I said, I think I know what I want to do. He says, like, what? I said, I want to do mini golf indoors. And I remember him saying, why? Because we live in, New England. It's beautiful outside. Why would anybody, want to play mini golf indoors? And I said, well, because it's only nice out for 3 months a year, the summertime, and the rest of it, it's freezing cold. And I need to make money for, the whole year. So it was really just kind of deductive reasoning, common sense, that we ended up with mini golf. The only reason it's black lights is because the mill was old and terrible. So black lights means, whatever you paint in fluorescent colors is what shows up. Everything else is hidden. And monsters were two reasons. One, the mill was old, looked like monsters belonged there, but monsters were the only thing that I could make with no money. So if it was train themed or car themed, I couldn't afford to put those props in there. But monsters are whatever come out of your head. So I'm like, well, if I can take, $30 a week or $100 a week and go buy paper mache or anything I found objects, I can make a monster. So that's how Monster Mini Golf came to be Monster Mini Golf. It wasn't like, hey, I got this great business idea. It was, how do I get to the next step? Yeah.
There's not many people sort of design a straight path and walk it. I mean, yeah, as you say, you generally, it reminds me of scuba divers coming off a boat. They just they're incredibly cumbersome and they just fall backwards into the water. That's pretty much how most people do get into business of some form, then after a while they learn to swim and then they start to look graceful, but it was never pretty to start off with, right?
And I think that's probably from, like I said, when you're young, when I was that young, it was always like, okay, I got A and B, I got to get to C. So to me, that's how I think. Everything is like that. This is done. Now let's get to the next one, which is good and bad, because once in a while you just got to stop and breathe. And I have a problem with that. I'm always just get to the end, get that done, check that box and move on. And don't die or don't let anybody kill you in the meantime. So my life is just a giant video game, I think. Is really what it is. Big game of Frogger. Yeah.
Was it all about the money for you, or was it the achievement, or because
never about okay, so when we had no money, yes, money is the coolest thing in the world because you need it to pay your bills. So I never wanted to be rich. I don't care about being quote unquote rich. I always wanted to have all of my bills paid and never have to worry about losing a house. So this is, and if you read my book, I've gone through all of these things. I want to get in the shower and I want there to be hot water. I don't want to take any more freezing cold showers in my life. So yes, money, because you need it to live comfortably and have heat and things. But if you look at our house today, you wouldn't know that we are the people that own this house. We live in a very normal looking house. I mean, it's cool, it's better that it's an average house, all of our franchisees who own the Monster Mini Golfs that, we franchise to live way better lifestyles than we do. And it's not because, it's just because they just choose to, that's all, We have one car between the two of us. I have a lot of very cool toys. I can tell you that because I collect toys and art, but but it's not where some people get some, it is about the money. It just isn't. I don't know.
Do you like yourself? Do you love yourself?
Yes and no. I like that. I like I get up in the day. I'm like, I like that I can sleep at night. Well, besides actually literally being able to sleep at night, but I like that this has made me the kind of person that will speak up. If something is wrong, I am going to say something is wrong. And if I have a way I can take a shortcut in life and you got to step on some people, or if I can take that road that is going to get me to that same point, but it's going to suck out loud because it's going to hurt doing it, I'm going to take the right road. And that's who I've become because of a result of my family. And people don't always like that. So that part I do like about myself, because I would go down doing the right thing before I conceded to doing something that isn't right just to get what I want. That part I like about me. What I don't like about me is that I would do that for everybody before me. It's not about me. It's about, is the right thing the right thing? I tend not to. I'm learning. I'm getting better at that. Is taking care of, if somebody says, hey, do you want to do this? And I think they want yes as the answer, but I don't want yes, I'm going to say yes. It's just, that's welcome to being conditioned and doing what you think everybody wants to hear.
Yeah.
There's two sides, yes and no.
Yes. It's multifaceted, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yep.
And the transition for you into a relationship, was that straightforward, or does it take a lot of adjustment?
Yeah. Oh, over so many years of doing just the wrong thing for
Mm.
exactly the reason I think that we just stated was, oh, this person wants to hear this, so I'm going to do this. And you just get to that point where you just hit that wall and you're either really, really angry and you, to me, I was angry at myself. What's wrong with you? How can you keep repeating the same thing? What is wrong with you? Smarten up. But it takes a long time, to get to that point. You have to get slapped in the face a lot. I think, as much as we say we learn quickly, some of us don't in certain subjects. Yeah. And we can all admit that we don't in certain subjects. Yeah. It took a long time. My husband that I'm married to now is the one who when I wrote the book, I was with him. So we've been married since 97, however many years that is.
24. I'll save you the math.
Yeah. No children though. Yeah. So no children is a direct result of what happened to me. I just chose not to bring children into this world. Not that that's right or wrong. It was my choice. Yeah.
That's understandable too, right?
I think so. I think a lot of us probably don't. And then the other part, have children swearing they would never, just to say, I just want to bring a human being into this world and take care of them right. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's personal. I mean, do you think, I mean, are you, or do you think you ever will be able to sort of close that gap between who you are and who you truly are inside?
I don't know. No idea. I just answering you honestly here. I don't know. I guess a lot of it will depend on whether I do get the chance to make a difference with this. I think that would make me feel, I don't know, like I've helped somebody. Like all this suffering was worth something, It's intense. I used to think that when I was younger, when I was a real kid, if I can just be good, be the good child they want me to be, then when I get big and I'm an adult, and I'm going to use this really loosely, God will make sure my life is great. That's a bunch of bullshit, because God doesn't give a shit about it. Not that he doesn't care, but there is no payoff for, hey, just because I've endured all this, you get like a gold coin at the end. You don't. One has nothing to do with the other. And that, like, even to this day, I'm like, God, geez, I've been through all this crap. Do you have to do this too? Yeah, life happens. Yes. That's a tough one to swallow if you believed that when you were younger. And I did.
Yeah, it's sickening when the sort of the ripples or the pain and the just the repercussions continue.
Yeah.
Especially if the person's passed as well. I mean, it's it's huge. It's huge.
Yep. That's the balance,
I just want to be respectful of time here. So, I mean, really, tell me, what, if you were to try and describe your fire in the belly in one or two words, Christina, what would they be?
Fire in the belly right now to me means, I don't know, just be resilient and speak up. That's in my head. That's my number one thing in my life now. Yeah. Make a difference. Make a difference if you can.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean everybody can't, and that's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. But make a difference if you can, especially for those who can't.
Yeah. Choose.
Yeah.
Where can people learn more? You've obviously the book itself is called Every 9 Minutes, and it's available on your website.
Yes. I have a website called 123 Christina V, like my last name. All of my social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram is 123 Christina V. And then if you want to learn about Monster Mini Golf, it's monsterminigolf.com.
Fabulous. And I would recommend go have a look at the site, because it's very cool. And for anyone that's just listening on the audio, the background that you have is fantastic. It's these fluorescent characters, very, very characterful. Beautiful. Beautiful. There's a lot there. So is there a message you'd like to leave with our guests before you go?
I just know that you're not alone. If you're in the same predicament, you're not alone, and it's okay to feel like you do. It's also okay to speak to others like myself who've been there. Everybody needs help. You're not, nobody's an independent warrior. It's not, this isn't an army of one type thing. It'll take an army.
Yeah. Wasn't say it takes a village to raise a child,
It does.
Takes an army to get through.
Yeah, to rescue a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
sorry about the dogs.
That's okay. Perfect. Listen, Christina, thank you so much. I appreciate your time. And like I said, your book is available for sale on your website and also on Amazon. And listen, I know people want to learn more, so feel free to go to the website. And thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. And I hate to cut you short. I just got to run.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Bye. I'll talk to you by email.
Bye-bye.
Bye.